Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. And Shalom to all the sincere believers, which includes the scattered Israelites who are amongst these other nations and look like these other nations. Now, this lesson is going to be a quick one, just based on, this Iran war update. So through the spirit, I'm going to read some of this article, get some precepts, and Lord's will, you're edified. It says Tehran says Trump's peace talk claims are fake news. It says U.S. President Donald Trump announced that discussions are ongoing with Iran to determine whether a broader agreement can be reached, saying that this time Iran means business. They want to settle. They want peace. Tehran denied that talks with the U.S. are taking place, with Iran's parliamentary speaker saying such claims are fake news and being used to manipulate financial and oil markets. Yeah, and anybody with a brain knows that Iran is not trying to do peace talks with the U.S. because twice already Iran has tried to do peace talks with the U.S. And what happened? The U.S. and Israel bombed them. So they're not going for that a third time. Like, the Iranians are sticking to this war. So Trump sitting here lying as he always does, just like his entire administration. Him lying, saying, oh yeah, they want peace, and him lying, talking about how, the U.S. military has, obliterated, Iran's military, their military capabilities and wiped out their leaders and all of this. Like, all Trump knows how to do is lie. These Iranians, they don't want peace anymore. Twice they tried having peace talks, and twice they got bombed. So now they want all the smoke. They're like, listen, you want war? Fine. This is what it is. And they're willing to go as long as it takes. See, Trump is trying to make himself look like the good guy. Trying to make it look like, oh yeah, the only reason why the U.S. got involved in this conflict that really has to do with Israel and Iran is because, Iran has been saying, death to America, and they've been burning American flags, So that's why Trump is saying that the U.S. got involved, because Iran was, in his mind and in his words, a threat to America. But Iran is not a threat to America because Iran doesn't have missiles with long enough range to hit the U.S. So they can't even do anything over here. So they're not a threat. But you want to know who they are a threat to? Israel. Iran is a threat to Israel because those colonizing Edomites in the land of Israel, what they want to do is they want to take over the entire quote-unquote Middle East, which is, besides them, surrounded by other nations that are full of brown people. Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Palestine, Syria, a lot of those are brown-skinned nations. And basically, we know how these Edomites, these so-called white people, feel about brown-skinned people. They look at us as the enemy. And they want to erase us. They want to get rid of us. So basically, Israel has beef with Iran, but they know that they can't handle Iran in a one-on-one. So Israel tagged in the US to help them. But what they didn't anticipate was Iran putting up as much of a fight as Iran has been putting up. This is definitely not going the way that they anticipated that it would. They thought that they were going to attack Iran, and then Iran was going to surrender and do whatever they wanted. But these Iranians are fighting back, and they're fighting back hard. The US and Israel are getting their ass handed to them out there in the so-called Middle East. They're losing, actually. They're not winning. But because Trump is trying to save face, he's like, oh yeah, we're winning, we're doing great. We're obliterating all of their military, we're killing all their leaders, they're in complete disarray out there. When in reality, it's not playing out that way. And for me personally, it's nice to see, at least on TikTok, there's a lot of people who have enough common sense to know that the US is not winning that war. But of course, you're going to have the brain dead, Kool-Aid drinking supporters of Trump that are just going to believe all the lies that he tells them. So here in this article, when it says U.S. President Donald Trump announced that discussions are ongoing with Iran to determine whether a broader agreement can be reached, saying that this time Iran means business. They want to settle. They want peace. They wanted peace when they were at the table before you bombed them. That's the whole reason why they were at the table. That's what they wanted then, before all the chaos started. But you know who didn't want peace? Israel. The Edomites, these so-called white people, the ones who are incapable of peace. They are a violent nation of people. Whether it's the Edomite Israelis or the Edomites here in the US or the Edomites anywhere else in the world, these so-called self-proclaimed white people don't know the definition of peace. All they know is war and violence. And these Iranians, these brown-skinned people, have caught on to that. And so now they're speaking to the US and Israel in the only language that they understand, which is war and violence. So when Trump talks about, oh, the Iranians want peace, no, they don't. No, they don't. They want to wipe you out. That's what they want, because this is the second time that they have went to the table to have peace talks, and the US and Israel decided to bomb them. So now they're like, screw it. No more peace talks. Y'all want war? Then this is what you're going to get. And this is why the scriptures say, never trust thine enemy. Because Esau will tell you one thing when something completely different is happening. Because he's so used to people believing his lies. But thanks to social media, people can see what's really going on. And people know that what they're being told is not how things are playing out. Ecclesiasticus 12:10, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Verse 11, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away. And that's right. Because even though Esau, he's going crouching and he's humbling himself and he's like, okay, we're having some good talks with Iran, some nice peace talks. They say they want to settle, they say they want peace. Everybody with a functioning brain knows that he's lying. Because everyone with a brain is like, why would Iran be trying to have peace talks with you when every other time that they've tried that, you've bombed them? So clearly you're the one who doesn't want peace. So now they're just speaking to you in the only language you understand, which is war. These Iranians, they want all the smoke. They want to go to war. They don't care anymore. But see, the US is losing and Israel is losing. You want to know who really wants peace? Is the US and Israel, because they're getting their ass handed to them out there by those Iranians who they thought that they were just going to walk all over. They were not expecting those Iranians to fight back as hard as they are. So the so-called white man is getting his ass handed to him, and he's the one who wants peace. He's the one who wants a ceasefire. But because he has so much pride, he can't admit that that's what he wants. So he has to lie and say that, oh, that's what the enemy wants. We're overwhelming them with our superior military might, and they want to surrender. They want to settle. And it's like, no, that's not what's happening. That is not at all what's happening. Esau is a liar by nature. And it's a beautiful thing with social media that Esau can say something and then people will share videos across TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or wherever, and you can see what's really happening, and it never matches up with what the so-called white man is telling you. See, Trump is telling you, oh yeah, we're victorious, we're we're winning this war. And in reality, they're not. They're not winning. Every time the US and Israel strike Iran, Iran fires back. Like it's still a back and forth. And I believe it's day 25 or day 26 of this war. Those Iranians are not letting up. They're still going strong. So Esau is just a liar, because he knows that there is a portion of people who will believe his lies, who will still believe his lies, even when the evidence is right there in front of their face that shows otherwise. And that's why it's death to Israel and those wicked Edomites out there. It's death to America and the wicked Edomites over here as well. It's death to all of these Edomites, wherever in the world they dwell. The nation of Edom as a whole needs to be destroyed, because there can never be peace on earth as long as they exist. Because like I said, they don't know the meaning of peace. It's just not in them. The Lord did not make them that way. The way that these Edomites got control over the whole world was not through peace. It was through violence. It was through colonizing. It was through rape, robbery, and murder. You can't expect people who their whole existence from generation to generation has been based on violence and conquering other people. You can't expect them to know the definition of peace. And it's a beautiful thing to see the world waking up to that. And now everybody's starting to speak to these Edomites in the only language that these Edomites understand, and that's violence. You know, these Edomites, they want to go to war. These other nations are like, okay, fine. That's what you want. Let's do it. Nobody's backing down from these Edomites anymore. Nobody is scared of them. Everybody hates them, and everybody wants to put a foot up their ass. And that's the spirit that the Lord has in this world. And that spirit is going to grow, and we're going to see that within these different countries, within these different cities. We're going to see more brown-skinned people clashing with these Edomites. That's where the race wars are going to kick in. Because everybody is against Esau. Even other Edomites are against Esau. Because that's how wicked this man is. He's so wicked that he's hurting his own people. So even his own people are turning against him. And the scriptures say that, a house divided cannot stand. A nation divided cannot stand. So not only is the whole world against Esau, you have a portion of Edomites that are also against other Edomites. So there is no alternative except for these Edomites to go down. And that's how those of us of the hopeful elect are supposed to look at this. Esau is so close to being removed out of power. And there's nothing he can do to stop it. Like it says in Job 14:5, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee, thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. Esau is on a time limit. He's on a timer. And when that timer runs out, he's going to fall completely out of power. And there is no regaining that power. Once these devils go down, they're going down forever. And they know that. That's why in Revelation 12:12, which I'm going to get, because I don't want to butcher it. It says, Revelation 12:12, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil, and this is a lowercase d, which is referring to Satan's, the spiritual demon Satan's human counterpart, which is Esau, the so-called white man. It says, for the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And that's why Esau is ramping up, with these attacks, with the military and, with the ICE agents and all of this, because he knows that he's falling out of power. The Lord is stripping that power from him, and he can feel it. He can see it, and it's scaring him. So Esau is basically doing anything and everything to try to stay in power. He's throwing everything at the wall and hoping something sticks so that he doesn't lose his power. But what he doesn't understand is that the Lord put him where he is. The Lord put him in that position, and the Lord is going to take him out of it. And there is no amount of kicking and screaming and starting wars and trying to wipe out all brown people that's going to prevent him from losing that power. There's no saving Esau. Esau can't save himself. These Edomites are destined to go down and to be put in slavery under the Israelites for 1,000 years. And these Edomites will experience the most brutal, hardcore slavery that any nation has ever had to endure for those 1,000 years. And then they're going to be rounded up, and every single Edomite, every single so-called white person who actually is an Edomite, not just someone who looks like them, because of all the racial mixing that's, been going on for centuries, all the rape that these Edomites were doing to all the nations that they enslaved. Everyone who's actually an Edomite, they're all going to be rounded up and they're going to be wiped off the face of the earth. The entire nation of Edom is going to be erased off the face of the earth after 1,000 years. That's their end. That's how their story plays out. Their precious America gets nuked. All the Edomites in these other nations around the world, they're going to get rounded up. They're all going into slavery for 1,000 years under the people that they hate the most, which are the Israelites, who primarily make up the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, as well as the scattered Israelites who are amongst these other nations and look like these other nations, which include Edomites. They look like Edomites, so-called white people, but they're really Israelites. And then after 1,000 years, these Edomites will be erased. That's their lot. And there's nothing they can do to stop it. And as Esau continues to escalate all of this chaos, it just proves how desperate he is. Esau, just like America, is on his last leg. They're almost up out of here. So those of us who are the hopeful elect, we should be rejoicing, because we're living in the time of the downfall of our chief enemy, the so-called self-proclaimed white man. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash, the Wadi Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to all the sincere believers, which includes the scattered Israelites who are amongst these other nations and look like these other nations. I hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up, and Adawan Ratzazah. Until next time, Shalom.